What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Yesterday, people were going crazy online after an announcement that a pretty big feature for legacy, we'll say Pokemon games, is being shut down. But as all of that was happening, reports started to spread that more classic Pokemon games could be on the way for the Switch and showing up here pretty soon. But we'll go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about GTA 6 as something interesting popped up on Netflix that has people running through all kinds of other speculations. And then we had some reports on buying habits for customers as to how many are buying that $100 edition. And we had a bunch of previews go live, specifically for Wolverine and Fire Emblem. So we'll look at all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we're every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, going over the world of gaming news, trying to keep you up to date. So just know, if you don't get a notification in the morning, there's probably a video here to check out on YouTube or on Spotify with full video and audio available there. And we're going to start today with a collection that was announced, which we can see this over on PlayStation's social media account, saying Mafia the Omerta collection arrives August 14th on PS5. That includes Mafia the Old Country, Mafia Definitive Edition, then 2, and then 3. The thing that's kind of weird is I checked, and Mafia the Definitive Edition has like a 60 FPS update, which is great, but 2 and 3 do not have that update. And honestly, the one I was kind of hoping for with the frame cap being raised there was 3. I went back because I haven't played 3 in forever now. This is like a year or two ago, and I fired it up on the PS5 through backwards compatibility, and it's not a great 30 FPS. I mean, the game already has all kinds of bugs and stuff going on, but that would be one that I would like to see have some kind of work done to it in the form of an update. But at this point, doesn't look to be the case. Still, though, if you haven't played Mafia, the Definitive Edition, it's going to obviously be even better on systems than with that 60 FPS update. And just the overall, like, Mafia collection there, that's a solid amount of content. And I'd say it's definitely worth checking out if you have, like, no experience with it, but you've been kind of curious seeing it from time to time. That is actually available today. Also, we had Duskfade Reviews go live. That is also available now. It's up for the price of $30. I think on Steam it had a sale that was going on at launch, but like we can see over on Metacritic, currently sitting at a 78 on PC. That's where the most reviews came in, and there's something interesting about this. So if we look at Gamer Social Club, they give it a 90, saying it isn't simply a love letter to the action platformers of the 90s and early 2000s. It's an ode to them, bringing the influences together so effortlessly that the result feels like something you've played before and something new and exciting at the same time. I've been kind of keeping an eye on this game. They sent a review code for it, and I just haven't had a chance to check it out at any length. I played it for maybe an hour or so, just getting it started, and it just immediately, the aesthetic, the controls, the feel of it, it does seem like something out of that PS2 era. And I mean, you hear that and you kind of, it sounds like an insult at first. It's not. Honestly, I like to see games kind of pull inspiration out of those action 3D platformers, because some will look at that as that golden era, like I'd say like there's a 10-year window going from the N64 and PS1 up through most of that PS2 generation. There were some really good and creative games. This one seems like it would actually fit in at that point, but here now in 2026. Oh, and we did get a sales update for Pokemon Pokopia, because remember, it's not just Nintendo who necessarily tracks Pokopia, as there is different publishing, I believe, in Japan for it. So we kind of get like a small picture from Nintendo, but now we have a full press release we can see. They say Nintendo and the Pokemon Company Group have announced that global sales of the Pokemon Pokopia game have surpassed 5 million units across physical and digital versions. That's just over 4 months since it launched March 5th. This would then, well, now would be the second highest selling game on the Switch 2. Of course, Mario Kart World, we know, is like the #1 game, far and above. But that means that it had sold more than Donkey Kong Bonanza, and it is a game key card. So, I mean, that didn't necessarily stop people from checking out the latest Pokemon game, even though it wasn't necessarily the latest, like, traditional Pokemon game. It does make you wonder a bit about Winds and Waves, although I think that's going to be on the cartridge, but who knows at this point. Still, though, Game Key Card was not able to slow down Pokopia, but also it kind of has Pokemon on it, so I wouldn't really expect it to. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Pokemon Bank being shut down. They've made it official with the date for it, whereas before they had announced that it was shutting down, but didn't exactly tell us, just kind of giving you a heads up. And that was actually years ago now. So they made it official here over on their website, and Pokemon Bank is being shut down February 26th, 2027. So they are at least giving people, a heads up here of what, like 5 or 6 months or so. And the thing with Pokemon Bank and why people were not happy about this, even though it's not necessarily something people would use Pokemon at home, right, for more of the current ones, but there was an entire process of getting older Pokemon games, think of the DS era as an example, getting those Pokemon all the way up to the newer games, and in order to do that, you have to, there's an entire infographic that somebody had made up on Reddit like years ago, and it looks insane. But technically, with Pokemon Bank existing, it was possible. Remember, we did have the delisting, the shutdown, we'll say, of the 3DS and Wii U, but you were still able to access Pokemon Bank, of course, if you had previously downloaded it. So people were still using it, although I do wonder how many people were using it, as I always saw people talking about Pokemon Home over anything else, and why wouldn't they? That's the more current one, of course. But this doesn't exactly help like Pokemon players at all. This, if anything, it just hurts them because you're not able to then, after February 26th, get Pokemon from some of the really old games up to the newer ones. It's just taking a feature away, essentially, and kind of messing up the entire process at this point. So here's the deal, all right? We're thinking about this like, oh, wow, what are they going to do exactly with some of the older games? Well, if we see, this was shared by Special Nick over on his social media account, saying currently the ports of Pokemon Ruby, Emerald, and Sapphire are planned for late September or October. Now, he seemed to say this in relation to DMs that he was getting about even the Zelda console and Pro Controller, which is, we saw those boxes that got out there. Seems like that's happening, and I would expect some kind of Zelda event, 40th anniversary event, probably in the next few weeks. Some are thinking it will happen before the end of August. We'll see. Obviously August or September, all right? Like, they're not going to get to November, have it, and then be like, oh yeah, Ocarina of Time is out next week. So I think we're getting pretty close, go figure. But with Pokemon Ruby, Emerald, and Sapphire, one, I'm a little surprised about Emerald. Maybe he's saying the generation, because we had Fire Red and Leaf Green, and that's fine. I guess you could sell all three of them, but I just kind of feel like you show up with 2 releases with Sapphire and Ruby, and then save Emerald maybe for later if they wanted to. But hey, you know what? Release them all. That's great there too. I feel like I would just pick up Emerald, but either way, this could be something that we see more and more from the Pokemon company in collaboration with Nintendo, because when they released Fire Red and Leaf Green, everybody looked at it and said, oh wow, it's a 40 megabyte download. This is just the ROM, isn't it? Well, here's the thing. Now we know that Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green will be getting home support in October. We're hearing about Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald around September, October. It's like, okay, they're shutting down Pokemon Bank in February, but then here come a lot of the older Pokemon games moving up to the Switch and the Switch 2 with home support. Kind of seems like they are cycling back through with a lot of these older titles. So I do wonder if we get to a position where they bring up some of some of the older DS games. Like they've of course remade some of them, like Diamond and Pearl and stuff, but there's still many games that people would have been accessing with Pokemon Bank. But hey, these classic Pokemon games, they probably make insane amounts of money on it. For the work that goes into getting those games moved over, again, we looked at them as, oh, these are just kind of the ROMs with some added support for home. They just print millions of dollars overnight from that release. So I expect them to do the same thing with, we'll say, Sapphire, Emerald, Ruby, probably $20 each, but hey, they're Game Boy Advance games. It falls in line with Fire Red and Leaf Green. I wonder if they saw the sales coming in for those ones. Like, I wonder if 25 would work as well. The $5, that again could be millions of dollars extra that they find overnight. So this isn't surprising to me to hear about it, and maybe it becomes something that they do. I don't know if they can do it yearly, but every couple of years here going forward, we just hear about classic Pokemon games getting dropped onto the Switch 1 or the Switch 2, and they just utilize that massive install size over and over again to make a bunch of profit. Next up, let's talk about GTA 6 and their big Netflix event that's coming up at the end of this month, which has certainly drawn a lot of conversation and debate on the internet. But something interesting was found, or maybe even faked, all right? So we'll kind of get a little bit more into that side of things. But first, here we go. This is over on Insider Gaming. GTA 6 Netflix extended look could be 3 episodes. This seems to come from Reddit, where a person posted a screenshot that was like Netflix Portugal that had 3 different play buttons listed below with 3 different like time slots and the amount of time for each episode apparently, and it was going to be 3 different videos that were then published. I don't know if all at once. Netflix still kind of does that thing, right? Where it's just, here's everything all at once. And like, so some, like Amazon, for example, when I was watching The Boys, you'd wait week to week, right? I don't know. Does Netflix still do the thing where they just drop like all the episodes? Because that would be kind of weird, and I don't know if that would work in to how you'd want GTA 6 to go, where they do try to just give people more information each week. But here's the thing. People started looking into this, and they said, hold on a minute. Netflix's episode section should appear above more details. Like, they really got into it. They went to, like, page inspection, and they were recreating it, and they were like, this doesn't look right at all. So here, the thing is, would I really expect Netflix to mess that? I mean, Netflix has been, for the most part, think about like Stranger Things. They were pretty tight-lipped on that. Didn't really mess much up with too many spoilers or anything. Would GTA 6 be the thing where like they accidentally leak a massive property like that because they accidentally have some slots go live? I don't think so, but I can't necessarily rule out the idea that there would be multiple episodes, because Strauss Zelnick said, hey, you'll understand why we went with Netflix here, why we're doing this after you see it. It could be just, hey, the game looks awesome, so you're not going to complain after you see it necessarily, but it literally could be, hey, you're going to see an episode every month leading up to release. That'll be kind of interesting. But for this, I'm kind of leaning on the side of people, of course, on the internet like to fake stuff. I'm kind of leaning towards this being fake until proven true when we have the event happen. Here's the other thing, though. We do have some legitimate data. This we can see over on gamesindustry.biz. The digital intelligence firm Sensor Tower reports that 89% of pre-orders for GTA 6 are for the $100 Ultimate Edition rather than the $80 Standard Edition. The percentages are similar for both the game's launch platforms, with 90% of buyers on Xbox plumping for the Ultimate Edition, compared with 88.5% on PlayStation. And just the install size on the PlayStation alone might actually work to dilute some of those numbers, so that could be why that's a little lower there than Xbox. The point is, yes, the people, as Strauss Zelnick said in that interview on TV then, is, yeah, a lot of people who are pre-ordering now, before we even show gameplay, are the more, we'll say, enthusiast level customers for us that have already decided they were buying GTA 6 as soon as the logo hit, as soon as the rumor started to swirl that it was going to be a thing, right? So, okay, it's just, we've talked about the $100 game. The $80 game has been discussed at length now because of things like Mario Kart World when that, burst onto the scene. But here we are now with the Ultimate Edition that, again, there's extra content there. Big GTA fans, of course, are going to opt for that as opposed to the $80 edition, where some shopkeepers just don't let you in because you didn't buy the gold card. But for this, it's, man, the $100, is that price threshold really not that bad for enthusiast gamers? I guess not. And at least that's what we're seeing right now with GTA 6. So, whew. I've said before, GTA 6, it's going to be an outlier. We know this. But it's going to also make some of these companies think a little more, they're getting away with the $100 edition. Can we get away with $80? Is that really not so bad anymore? Because it is going to be that situation of normalizing prices even above 80 to where 80 doesn't seem that bad. Think about how games used to be just $60 and that was like the standard price. 70 comes along. Now we talk about a game that's $60 and we're like, it's not full price. It's like, oh, okay, because the $70 one is there, and it's kind of changed expectations when it comes to price. So there we go. I wouldn't expect 3 episodes on Netflix, but I probably would expect the $100 edition to sell better than the $80 edition, even after launch. Next up, let's talk about a couple of previews that have released now. We'll start with the first one being Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, and there's a lot of praise for this game right now. All the previews, they were just glowing. People could not get enough of this game. Many of the outlets had like 20 or 30 hours logged, and they were like, yeah, part one. It's like, wow. And it makes sense why it's 30 hours when you start to go through what exactly they were experiencing here. So first off, yes, it is like the most expansive Fire Emblem game to date. Tons, I mean, unbelievable amounts of content are some of the words they were using here. There are those 4 distinct paths, right? One for each character. And because you can jump between each character whenever, it made part one much, much longer for any of the people previewing the game, because they wanted to go through and see what exactly each protagonist had. And since each one is fleshed out quite a bit to where they are like, they could be a sole protagonist for an entire game, but here you have 4 of them. It just made it, I think it was VGC who said this felt more wide, like it's a long game, but also felt very wide. And I think that's a very good explanation just based on what everyone was saying here. But you jump between the characters before any of the crossover events happen. Let's say a pair of the characters have like a qualifying match against each other. Leading up to it, you can jump between them, see all the backstory or things that were happening on the build up to it. And then the payoff of the entire match is just way better than seeing one side to it. So this is an interesting way to kind of approach a Fire Emblem game like this, because like 3 Houses, you just picked one person and you played through it, then you had to replay it again. I like the idea of just on the fly sort of jumping between characters and not having to go all the way through and then jumping all the way back, because these games aren't short in the first place, and then having to go through it again. This is kind of interesting to see, like different perspectives, right, as you go through, like as things are playing out in real time. The story though, because of this, everything's intertwining nicely. Another high point here. And so when you're not in matches, I saw Persona come up a couple of times, but like exploring, spending time during the day doing different things, even outside of the city. There's the world, they say, is expansive. And so when you're traveling around, there's dungeons, you can visit other towns. Of course, you can go around, recruit different people. There's a bunch of characters to recruit to build up your squad. At the battles, though, they do follow similar Fire Emblem strategy RPG paths, but they say it opens up much, much faster. Like, there's not a whole section of just training wheels for, tens of hours. It's pretty quick to get you there. But I did notice only 1 save file per account, and that seemed to annoy a lot of people. All right, so I kind of get the idea of wanting to go through different save slots. Having at least 3 of them is nice. With the Switch, you can make different accounts, and that works, but still, it is nice to have maybe 1 save file you want to try different things, experiment a bit more than having like your main gold path one. And I understand that the flexibility and the freedom of having 3 different save slots is better, obviously, than 1, but it is coming out September 17th, which is unfortunate because I believe that's the same day as Trails in the Sky second chapter. Almost done the first chapter, by the way. I know people are asking me how it's going. Almost done. I will finish that game before the 17th. But then here comes Fire Emblem, and I feel like this game's going to review really, really well, and it's going to be one of those standout RPGs for the year that I'll have to check out. But of course, it's right there next to a game that you don't have to tell me I know is probably like 80 some odd hours. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. But hey, Fire Emblem looking good so far in some of these previews with the first 20 or 30 hours that have been played. And then we'll finish up with Wolverine, as there were a bunch of previews for this as well, and not as much time as Fire Emblem, because Wolverine's probably not going to be as long as Fire Emblem, go figure. But what was there, people seem pretty happy with, although there was there were more question marks here, is what I'll say. So from the top, people were worried it was going to be a Spider-Man game potentially with just claws. Like, oh, it's take Wolverine, drop him into Spider-Man. It's kind of that same path. Not necessarily, okay? So instead of the open world setup, it is very much linear. It's also not going to be an origin story for Wolverine. He's already been infused with adamantium. He doesn't know how, so there's some of the classic amnesia factor there. But he will be the only playable character. You won't have any MJ sections from Spider-Man in this one. Brutal combat, though. I mean, it heavily leans into that M rating. There were some stealth kills that looked crazy in this game that they were showing off. So yes, there'll be stealth to it, but then you can just go full-on rage meter, which you'll build up as you're fighting, and then you just explode and just start one-shotting everyone. So it does heavily reward constant aggression, as there's a healing factor here, of course, for Wolverine, which the rage meter plays into that. And you'll have Logan, who gets chopped up and bits and pieces of like his body are missing, and he'll regenerate in real time. His suit also regens. And Insomniac said, you can't really just play through the game in rags. So they kind of video gamed it up all right, around the suit, which, all right, whatever. It's a video game, you know, okay, sure. But the story is involving Team X, which was kind of like is like the CIA, not necessarily Suicide Squad, because they had bombs in them. It's kind of just like the CIA secret ops where they have mutants, and yeah, so in this case, it's Wolverine, Sabretooth, Mystique, Omega Red. There's a few others in there that are mentioned that I'll kind of leave up from there. But I think this is going to lead into a big story with X-Men. I think that's kind of the idea here with Insomniac. A strong presentation, though, good set pieces, a lot of action. They showed a Sentinel prototype boss that I have to imagine that's like the tutorial boss, because it didn't look that interesting. I mean, the idea of it, oh, it's a Sentinel prototype's cool, but like the fight didn't look that interesting. And the combat variety is coming into question a bit here. Is it something that'll hold interest, be able to evolve over? I think it's gonna be like a 15-ish hour game. But here's the thing, in terms of performance, 60 FPS, ray tracing, and that's the default mode on the base PS5. So I imagine PS5 Pro owners are going to get a really nice looking game out of this one. Question though, is Insomniac playing it too safe here? Because that seemed to be one of the things coming out of these previews is it doesn't really try to push boundaries much at all. But if you're someone who just wants an action-packed game with Wolverine, without sacrificing any of the violence, this seems like a game you're looking for then. It's coming out September 15th. I'll be checking it out immediately, picking it up physically, and seeing what we have there with Insomniac, taking a bit of a break from Spider-Man, which I'm sure they'll get back to here soon with Spider-Man 3, and seeing what they can do with Wolverine. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you played any of the Mafia games? 61% say no, I've never played them. 31% say yes, I've played at least one. And 8% say yes, I've played them all. I would recommend, if you have not played one, this is just me. I mean, I'm sure there's people who really like some of the other Mafia games. You can start with Mafia 1 Definitive Edition. I really liked Old Country. And it was one of those games where they knew it wasn't going to be a massive open world style game, and they charged accordingly. But I actually enjoyed the story, the action beats, everything about it, the world. It was contained enough to where there's a start point, there's an end point, and it doesn't take forever to beat, but you get a pretty good overall experience out of it. That's probably the one I recommend. And then I guess following up with that would just be Mafia Definitive Edition. So the collection is pretty cool, but I mean, if you just want to pick one to see, I'd go between one of those two. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. Let's see, Game Champ says, Atlantis was a cereal box game. That's how I got my hands on it back in the day. I do remember at one point games came in cereal box. I feel like they were mostly PC games. I want to say there was a point in time where you would get like Scrabble out of the cereal box. Man, those are the good days. Is it just me, or is that not a thing anymore? I have to think about it with cereal nowadays, and I go, is there like a prize in cereal boxes? Because back in the day, that was a big deal. All right, like at 90s kids especially remember, man, you would go to the grocery store with the parents and be like, I want that one because it comes with some little toy or something. But at one point they did put like CDs in there, if I remember. It was like on the outside, I think, of the cereal. They didn't put it in the cereal, it was outside of the bag. I definitely remember that was a thing though. I have to go back and look it up. That'd be a fun thing to go back and in time and check out, see if I can find cereal box games, especially if they were ones like this that were on the PS1, because now I'm just curious as to what exactly they were packing in with like the cornflakes back then. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here on a card, or maybe you want to check out our weekly podcast where we talk about all kinds of video game related stuff, and it probably ends up going off the rails at some point. I'll leave a link to the latest Spawncast down below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.